And we are live. Hello, and welcome to the debate between Variloh and Zan. They both have some beef with each other, and I figured this would be a good way to settle it. So, take a minute to introduce yourselves, and then we can start getting into this.
Um, Dan, you want to go first? In the introduction.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. So basically, was pretty ass mad yesterday. I'll admit that. Not so much today. I thought about some stuff. Mainly, 95% of my grievance here has to do with the specific Sargon article, and it doesn't have to do with the content of the article. Not entirely, anyway, because I agree with some of it, and I do agree that Sargon did some really shady shit. But that's for another day. The problem I have with it was the execution, the way it was brought off, some of the choices that were made, particularly the biggest one, not talking to Sargon beforehand, because I just don't see any downside to it. The other 5% of my grievances has to do with pattern behavior, like things you've said and done in the past, previous YouTube videos, previous articles, other things, and just like sort of the general trend after the Sargon article of first B. Monroe, then Queenie. Queenie, not so much because she did like do something really disingenuous, so it was warranted. But still, like it was just in really poor taste. But that's not most of my issue. Most of it has to do with this specific article. Because before this, I was like, well, Veril's doing his thing, and it's probably beneficial. It was this one specific thing that was, I just don't think, done very well.
Well, everybody knows me. I'm Variloh. As you know, I have a YouTube channel and stuff, and have a blog that's part of my website. Um, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to address specifically, I'm going to address Zan, but specifically going to go through a video that he made yesterday that's going to be linked in the description that I've asked John to watch as well, so he can, call me in case I get any of the quotes wrong. Um, and that video was pertaining to a stream that happened the same day that I did with Kevin regarding, well, originally it was supposed to be Liana K. And we talked about Liana K. And we talked about her comments that she made about me on a stream with Kevin. So he was giving me the right to reply. And Kevin also said, hey, I want to talk about the article. And I was fine with it. I said, okay, let's do it. Let's talk about the Sargon article and what happened after and all that kind of stuff. And it is the fifth stream in which I kind of handle the hard questions that people want to ask, including Sargon's himself. So I did that, and Zan showed up in the comments, and we had an interesting little exchange, and things were said, and we're going to go through them. So in the video that Zan made as a reaction, that he just admitted he was upset, so I guess take with a grain of salt. In second minute 0, second 20, he says, I did not want to air criticism about the comment section issue. The comment section issue that he's referring to is that there's been some accusations about me regarding me being, me hiding the comments or deleting the comments, either one, of the article on my website. Now, in his video, he says that that he didn't air those criticism, as I just said, and he says, I can't prove my claim, but you can't disprove them either, specifically referring to the fact that he says that he personally believes that I did, in fact, hide the comments. And he alludes to it by stating that as an admin, when you have a forum, you can do these things. So the first thing that I think I need to prove is, well, did Zan actually say these things that I accused him of saying? He said that he talked about a stream specifically in the video that I wasn't actually referring to at all. I'm going to go ahead and screen share now. That's okay with all you guys. Give me a second. How the fuck do you do that?
He has to click your name and do share to all or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll. Yeah, I don't know if it'll do audio, but it might.
Like Mr. Moderator, how do you do this?
Specifically, how do you screen share?
Yeah.
You move your mouse to the left of the screen. There's a
Screen
green.
share, okay.
Yeah.
And if you could focus me, that would be great.
Sure thing.
Okay. Let me know if you can see. Infinity. Can you guys see my screen right now?
Yeah, it works.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so when I was talking about Zan specifically stating that I, publicly stating that I did these things, I was specifically, as I cleared up in the Kevin stream, I actually said this, but apparently Zan didn't catch it. I was referring to a YouTube comment that he left. If you notice, this is the video where I did about mocking V. Monroe and Queenie, and we'll get into that later because that's another one of Zane's gripes. We'll get into that. But in this video, a specific user decides to drop the comment. This is funny, but you deleted all the comments on your Sargon Battered Wife's blog post, didn't you? I'm not going to point to the fact that it's very interesting that this is where he decides to air it on a video that V. Monroe doesn't know how to handle and can't really respond to. So looking into it, I tell him, no, I didn't do that. And then he goes, okay, my mistake, carry on. And then a knight that should be dressed in white says something. And then Zan specifically states to me, after I say I didn't do it, says, so censorship is okay when you do it because it furthers your argument. Pot calling a kettle black, you need to check yourself. So this was, he's been talking about my articles and stuff on streams. To which I've quite frankly ignored it. I've seen them, I've seen his arguments, but I've quite frankly ignored it. This I took issue with because it implies that, number one, I did something that I didn't do, and number two, it implies that I'm stifling free speech to further a personal agenda or to better my own argument. So in the stream, Sargon in second, excuse me, not Sargon, Zan in second 46 to 112 says, I can't prove my claim, but you can't disprove them, and then goes on to explain about the admin situation that I mentioned. What I'm going to do is, well, first of all, I don't have to prove anything. The burden of proof is on you to make this claim. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say, okay, let's take a look at it. Let's see what's actually going on here. So here's manamonger.com. I'm going to go to blog posts. Here are the blogs. And you said you wanted to say something about the three most recent blogs to me. Those are the three most recent ones, so we can get to that later. Here is the article. So in the article, let's go down to the comment sections, and oh my, there's no comments. Gee, it seems that I must have deleted them. Well, if you look at, first of all, regarding to the statement that it's some kind of admin forum situation, it's not an admin forum. It's a third-party Facebook plugin. If we click on the Facebook plugin, which is public for everybody to see, you'll notice that it has a small little button called moderation. Now, in the moderation, it explains that you have to opt in to moderation. That's really important for us to remember for a while. The way to opt into moderation is you have to link it to a specific Facebook account. We haven't opted in because we don't have a Manamonger Facebook account, and we don't want to directly connect it to my Facebook account or to Elenka's Facebook account. Right here, if you do the research and you look into it, you can ask the question, well, all you have to do is prove that you haven't set up moderation. But you know what? I'll do you one better. Let's look at something more. If we go back to the home page and we click on the Read More section here, which takes us right back to the article, if we scroll down and go back to the, oh, wait, the comments aren't empty. So the audience must be asking themselves, what kind of weird wetback magic is this? Well, let's take a look at the two things side by side, and maybe we'll be able to discover what the fuck happened. Give me a moment. Well, we're going to go back to the webcom, to the blog.
I think you also have to have ad block disabled because I just did the same thing, still not working. So let me turn ad block off.
I don't have ad block. So then you go down, and here are the comments are no longer there. So what happened here? If you look at the website, you'll notice that by navigating to it with these two different ways, it has two different URLs. Here, look how it says, look how battered is spelled. And when you click here, look how battered is spelled. So what actually went on here? Well, if you do your due diligence and do research on this situation, you'll immediately find out, especially those of you who have script block, how I made this website. I made it with a third-party website building tool, like Weebly and Wix and, those guys. And if you remember what I said about the opting into moderation thing, If you find out which website I used to develop it, which you can easily do, and you use that information, which is also available, the moderation thing and the fact that I didn't opt in, you'll find that a very common error when you update your blogs and stuff like that is that sometimes the specific website I'm using to build shit duplicates stuff. And there's also reported problems with the comments on this very situation. So the first thing I would like to ask is, first of all, you did say these things that I claimed you said on the comment section, so I'm not a liar. And number two, you talk a lot about, and we're going to get into your specific view on how reporting must be done, but one thing that you're big on and you repeat over and over is doing due diligence. Don't you think you should have done your due diligence if you're going to say that in a comment section and override what I specifically stated? And by the way, I have
No, not really, and I have a statement about that, but go ahead.
And I must also add that after you said that, I specifically showed you a version of evidence, and you had no.
Yeah, a version of evidence which I'm trying to duplicate with script blocker off in 2 browsers, and it's not working for me.
Well, John, can you try it out?
I
What specifically?
mean, I'm just saying, but maybe I'm not doing it right, but I'm doing the same thing.
At the moment, I even confirmed it on a cell phone and realized that the problem doesn't exist on a cell phone for some reason. Why you're having
If it's actually a legitimate glitch, then yeah. But
I will try.
I cannot duplicate that result.
I will try. I will test that for myself. In fact, what I'll do is I will screen share. Actually, I won't screen share, but I will test it and confirm on my end.
Okay. So the interesting thing here is that you made the accusation on the comment section. You absolutely did.
Correct.
So the whole "I didn't make the accusation, I didn't want to talk about it" is nonsense. You actually did do it.
I was wrong. I did say it.
Okay. And number two, you somehow placed that the burden on proof is on the accused, me. I don't have to do all of this. The one who actually proved your claim is you, not me.
Yeah.
I still did it anyway, but you're the one who has to prove his claim.
Yeah, I said specifically I couldn't prove it.
Okay, but did you do this same research? Did you do any of your due diligence?
Yeah, I did. I tried to go to your comment section repeatedly to leave my own comment and wasn't able to do so. And the comments were there one day and not there the next day, so I didn't really know what else to think. Yeah, maybe there's something to this.
It's pretty easy to look at it from the website. There's 2 different clicks. I mean, it's pretty easy to find this mistake. And I've been meaning to make a video on it and haven't updated it on purpose to show people this. And again, if this is still, because the next accusation would be, well, you doctored it and you made it in the,
No, that wouldn't be my next accusation.
No, not yours.
Actually.
I'm saying in general. The interesting thing about this is that since these are 2 links and have their URLs, there are people who have done screenshots, videos, and archives, and those 2 links are out there. So this is not something I made up right now. So when I said I think you should apologize, I was referring to this. Because it doesn't seem to me you did any of your due diligence to make that claim.
That's still not working. Kelly, are you having any luck with this?
I already showed to the audience that, yes, using an incognito window and using the steps Variloh talked about, I was able to show the comments from my end.
All right, fair enough. I think you should fix that. Yeah, about the due diligence thing. Yeah, probably should have looked into that more, but I'm also not a journalist, and I'm not somebody who's making reports about people. I'm just a guy on YouTube who says shit. You, on the other hand, are somebody who's out making reports on people, specifically calling them out on a laundry list of things and publishing them as facts. So,
well I'm going to take your definition. Go ahead.
Context.
Couple of problems with that, but I'm going to take it in a different way. First of all, you said your big excuse is you're not. One of the things you said is you're not a journalist. Well, I'm not a journalist either. I'm just a guy with a blog. And the second
I have a comment to that. Go ahead.
And the second thing, which is something I've said publicly, is that despite that, people who are out there disseminating information, YouTube, blogs, journal, actual articles, reports, doesn't matter, have a responsibility to their audience and should be held to standards. So I'll take it that you mean that, and I'll say, okay, you can hold my article to standards because I'm making public statements. But at the same time, I'll say that your public statements should also be held to standards, and you should also be called on it. No matter if it's just a comment, no matter if it's just a comment on a stream.
Okay, so standards. So what standard is there for a YouTube pundit? What is the standard? Who determines the standard? What is the standard for
no,
you
I'm
to
holding you
find
to
it?
your own standard.
No, no. What is the standard?
Well, your own
I've said
standard.
things in the past that turned out not to be true and admitted that they weren't true, and I just did again. So, what is the standard?
Well, the standard you're holding yourself and holding me to is doing due diligence.
No, I'm holding you to a different standard, a higher standard than me, and I have an explanation for why I'm doing that.
Go ahead.
The reason why I'm doing that is because you might just be a guy with a blog, but this specific article, the way it was framed, the content that it involved, the specific aspects of it, was not blog. It was journalism. And it was journalism of either the good kind or the bad kind, but it was journalism. And the reason it was journalism is because you specifically singled somebody out for a laundry list of things, some of which you had right the first time, some of which you didn't have right the first time, which is why you did additions and corrections later, but I'll get to that.
Oh, we will.
But what you did, you didn't ask the guy, who is an individual, by the way, not an entity, but an individual, about any of this before you published it. And as far as I know, you didn't ask Giuseppe about it. You just used his comment on Niche Gamer. You didn't ask any of the other guys about it. You didn't ask any of these people about this. You just assumed it was the way that it looked. You published it. And then the part that really got me, you mixed your opinion in with the facts, but you didn't have op-ed in the tags. You didn't have op-ed on the blog. You had it out there as fact. It was not up there as your opinion. It was up there as fact. It's different. There is a higher standard when it comes to singling somebody out, even if you are a blog guy. That is the reason why Ralph has gotten in trouble in the past. When you single a specific person out, and you're going after a specific person on a laundry list of stuff, and it's somebody who hasn't done anything yet, or is not known to have done anything, it's somebody with a supposed clean record, you need to do your due diligence. The reason why I think you screwed this up, and it looks to me like yellow journalism, is because had you asked Sargon, and he had turned around and then said, no, fuck you, go fuck yourself, no comment, whatever, which I imagine it would have been some blend thereof, you could have then said, okay, now I have evidence that he's trying to hide it. And it's not just all this laundry list of stuff that could be interpreted as incompetence or hiding it, but that's the thing, there's no clear thing going on there, because when I was reading through all of this, it's like, okay, so it looks like he's doing something shady as fuck, but he did all of it out in the open. He didn't try to take down the website. He didn't try to take any of this stuff down and hide it. It was just sitting there for months and months and months as he became more and more popular. It was all out there. He didn't try to hide a single thing. So if he was intentionally trying to scam people, then why didn't he hide anything? So for me, there's more than reasonable doubt that it was just incompetence. And that's the problem, because I really wanted to know, had you simply gone to him and said, comment yes or no. Even Ralph has done that, by the way. He did that before he ran an article on Drybones. He came into IRC and he said, do you want to make a comment to any of these accusations? Drybones cursed him out and looked like a dipshit later for it. But that's the point. Other people, even in Gamergate, who have done this same thing, have at least gone for comment. Just if for no other reason than they can say later, okay, this person denied it, they're definitely trying to hide something, they won't even give a comment, they don't even want to talk about it. That was the first thing. The second thing was, the first stream you had with them, both of y'all were acting like kids. You were both cutting each other off. He was cutting you off, you were cutting him off. The next stream happened, what was it, a day later? He comes in yelling, you're yelling, you both, like, the second half of that,
I'm sorry, I'm not
both
yelling.
conduct yourselves like
That's
children.
not true. That's false.
No, it seemed like you were yelling to me, dude.
No, it doesn't seem. In fact, I was the guy telling everyone to be quiet and let him talk. So no, that's inaccurate.
Really?
Yes, really, sir. I was the guy saying that. Which is why everybody said that now it was his turn to drop the pasta.
Wouldn't it behoove both of you to have debated it like reasonable adults instead of, tearing each other's heads off?
Now you're simply going into subjective, touchy-feely things that I really have no interest in addressing. I'm going to go into the accusations that you meant there.
That's fine. Go right ahead.
First of all, define op-ed before I continue.
Okay, so stating clearly on the thing that there's opinions mixed in, instead
So
of
an op-ed
stating
is
it at the
anything with
bottom.
opinions?
An op-ed is anything that involves singling a person out. This is why the context is really critical for this specific article, because op-eds cover a wide range of things. But in this specific instance, when it comes to singling a person out on past activities, and you've specifically chosen not to ask that person for their input, and you're not putting any kind of tags in the article that say opinion, you're not putting any kind of tags on the top that say opinion, you're just saying at the bottom, well, it is this reporter's opinion at the very end. And you have other opinion mixed in throughout the piece. And that disclaimer's at the bottom. You have no clear, like there's no clear thing. If somebody's just browsing your site, this is why I thought it was clickbait. Because if somebody's just browsing and they see this, all they see is the title, all they see it as is presented as fact. But there were opinions mixed in throughout the article. There was no clear disclaimer that it was opinions until after the fact, after he came on stream, after he made a bunch of points. Then you went back and started adding things, correcting things, whatever. But that's the point. You shouldn't. That is the same thing that Kuchera has done in the past. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to go back and correct the article now because I fucked up, but it's okay. It's not Yellow Journal. But that's the point. It is. You should,
Okay,
you should have not done that.
Thanks. I just wanted the definition of op-ed. So first of all, you got the definition of op-ed wrong. A op-ed would actually is a, according right now to just going to quote Wikipedia, and then I'm going to give you my explanation. A newspaper page opposite to an editorial page devoted to personal comment, feature, articles, etc. An op-ed is a specific piece that you do that is solely opinion based, maybe loosely on some conditional evidence, but an op-ed is when you give just basically an opinion. I didn't do that in the article. I presented facts, and I did obviously tell my conclusions, my personal conclusions, based off of those facts. Absolutely, that was there, but this is not an op-ed. Secondly, the facts that are there not only have not been corrected in any way, shape, or form, Sargon confirmed them. So when you make the statement in your video, and I want to get the quote right, one moment please. When you state that I had to do 15 different corrections, you first said 10, then you went to 15, and I'm dying for you to show me either one of those 10
Oh, I
corrections.
can totally do that. I have the
Because
archive
I
in the
didn't
original.
ask him beforehand and didn't do my due diligence. And we're going to get into the asking beforehand thing in a moment. But the interesting thing at the end of the day is the things that the evidence that I showed stand to this day. He didn't disprove them, he confirmed them. So, and quite frankly, you said a lot of stuff, so I've forgotten half of what you said. So I'm just going to move on to the next point that I have here, and then you can kind of feed me back the things that you said. And by the way, your definition on yellow journalism is also incorrect. I provided John Kelly with 2 different definitions of it, and I'll happily read it for you here. Yellow journalism, first according to, well, first we're going to just do the Wikipedia one, which is easy. Yellow journalism or yellow press is a type of journalism that presents little or no legitimate, well-researched news and instead uses eye-catching headlines to sell more newspapers. Techniques like include exaggeration of the news, scandal-mongering, or sensationalism. By extension, the term yellow journalism is used today as a prerogative to decry journalism in the that threats news in an unprofessional or an unethical fashion. So a couple of things you need to prove. One, you have to say that I present little to no legitimate, well-researched news, and instead just used eye-catching headlines to sell more newspaper, but in this case would be to get more clicks. So I'm very curious to see how I didn't present, that I present little legitimate evidence or little research to no evidence at all. So I'm very interested in seeing that. Let me see, let me go through this. Now we'll get to the narrative building after the article. So I'm not going to do that yet. All kind of factual errors that you said I had, I'm dying to see you prove that. Well, let's keep going there while I remember what other stuff you just said. Show me some of the factual errors.
Yeah, here they are. The factual errors are that in the stream, he calls you out specifically on several things. One is the chronological stuff, which doesn't bother me that much because that's open to interpretation. But the other stuff is stuff that actually happened.
For
that you
example.
then go and add in. So here's an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Scrolling through. When I began writing this, it was a more general piece. This is the first piece. So the first piece reads, the title, first of all, since you brought that up, reads The Gamergate Battered Wife Syndrome Part 2, Sargon of Akkad, with a mission accomplished image with George Bush with Sargon chopped onto it. If that's not eye-catching, I don't know what is. It's fucking hilarious. And that's why it's eye-catching. So, first of all, if you are saying that you didn't do an eye-catching clickbaity type title, you fucking did. But I'll move on. So, in the first piece, you go through this stuff, coupled with a debate with Pixie Jenny. You go through the chronological history of him and the AJSA, and you go through. Then you say stuff like this: he's shown flashes of his older self at times, but his new attitude leaves much to be desired. He treats Angry Joe's hit piece with kid gloves. That's subjective. Now, if you have read up to this point, you may probably think that a lot of what I consider questionable decisions is mostly my opinion. And you would be partially correct. However, his choices as a game developer are much less opinion. So you admit that half of that stuff that you're saying, or at least some of that stuff, is your opinion. In the first part of the piece.
Which kind of invalidates your accusation that I presented it as everything here is fact and I haven't given an opinion. So you're wrong there. So yeah, but keep going. I'm waiting for the factual inaccuracy.
You go through the basics. He originally asked for 8,000 GP, U12. I've said his game, but in reality, it's his company's game. Then you go into the LTD single proprietorship thing. You got that wrong in the first article.
That's at the end of the article. That's practically at the end of the article. I'm waiting for the 10 factual inaccuracies.
There aren't 10 factual inaccuracies. There are 10 edits.
No, you said, and I would like to quote you.
No, I said, and I
would
quote,
like to quote you here.
You made 10 corrections.
After he corrects you on like 10 different things, and you had to go in and correct it.
Which you did, and I'm looking at the new article now. Update, Sargon explains why he donated to an SJW project.
That's not a correction.
Sargon news site can be seen here. It was not linked on the Kickstarter or the old page. It could only be found on the Necromancer Facebook page. Which means that it was on the Necromancer Facebook page, which means that you can get to the new site. No, it wasn't on the Kickstarter.
I'll have to step in here because you're speaking over each other. Okay. Now, can we take a look at the article and see exactly how many corrections were made? And if so,
sure, I can count them up right now.
Okay, well, here's the question then, because there seems to be a bit of conflation. You're saying that the article was updated 10 times, but you're counting the number of corrections that were put in the article, correct?
I'm counting the number of updates, because these are corrections. They all include
But a single update can include multiple corrections to the issue.
It could, but I'm only counting the updates. I'm seeing between 10 and 15 updates, almost every paragraph.
What I'm interested in seeing is where the factual inaccuracies are, because he's failed to mention one. Stating
so
here's
it's not
here's why
accurate.
Here's what, because again, you gave the example, for example, here's why he donated to an SJW cause. The statement that I made here was, and the fact that I presented is, he donated to an SJW project. Turns out that was true, because it was a fact. And what I added in was, well, here's his motive. I didn't know it was an SJW project. That doesn't hurt me in any way. That just adds more. That's not a correction. That's a confirmation, which wasn't necessary, but I added it in there because people were asking about motive. And that's another thing. In this very stream, you said that my motive for writing this article was to expose him as a scam. Show me where.
No, that's what I said on Skype, and that's not what I said.
No, that's what you said right in this very stream, and people can rewind and go rewatch it. You said that.
Really? Did I ever say your motive was to expose him as a scam? I said if your motive was to show him as unethical.
No, you said that if you're going to show someone as a scam, as in hiding, and you gave the example how he wasn't hiding anything and all that other stuff.
Okay, fair enough. I'll just give you all that. Keep going.
Okay. No, you're the one trying to show all of the factual inaccuracies I had to correct. I'm dying to see one.
I'm going to continue. Okay. But to address your last point, to show that it was a scam, my point here is not that that was your motive. My point is that if that was your motive, it would have made more sense to ask the guy first and have him deny it. Then you would have him on tape denying it. And then you'd have him by the balls. I don't know what your motive is. That's the other part of this, because I don't fucking know. And
well,
if
Zach,
anything,
can I interject here? Because
I really don't know.
All right,
I don't
Zan,
know where
I'm
you're
going to have to interject here because I have a
going
pertinent
for it.
question related to your argument. Because what I'm hearing is you're arguing the case that essentially you're saying that Variloh isn't wrong for writing an article about Sargon, but he didn't do a good enough job. Does this lead me to
That
believe
has
that
been my
you
point the
have your
entire
own
time.
reasons for objecting to Sargon that are
I
valid?
absolutely do, and some of the things in this article, and quite a few of them, in fact, are things I would have brought up after this article came out. And I even said as much to you and other people. I would like to do a stream with both of them and address both parts of this, the parts where the article falls short and the part where Sargon falls short. Because I think you both fucked up.
Well, my question is, if Variloh's only mistake was the form in which he presented his article, why are you trying to
Because
discredit?
the form is very, very important when
But
you
don't
are
you see a
trying
fundamental
to
problem
demonstrate
when you?
whether the guy is unethical or not. Now, before I go any further, I will ask Variloh something. Since I don't know what your motivations were, what was your motivation for this article? Did you want to demonstrate him as unethical? Did you want to demonstrate him as a scam? What did you want to do? What was your intent?
That's an interesting question, and it's great that I've answered it on multiple streams, like the one that I linked to you earlier. But again, you're the one claiming that I made yellow journalism. You're the one claiming that all of this has flaws. I shouldn't have to tell you what my motive is. You did your due diligence. You've watched all these streams. You know what my motive is. Oh, wait, no,
It hasn't
you
been
don't.
pretty clearly explained. It really hasn't. I did watch all those streams and I didn't get it. Like, I really didn't get it. I didn't understand where you were coming from.
Did you watch the LT Surge stream I gave you earlier? It's a 4.5
I watched the
hour
LT
stream.
Sarge stream, and the point that I thought it was is, well, I'm trying to criticize these people for being disingenuous. Was that what it was supposed to be?
No, but
Because it was really
I'll
fucking
answer you,
hard to
but wait a
tell.
minute. You watched the entire stream that I gave you hours ago. That's 4.5 hours. I want to get you on record.
I
saying that you watched it.
went through parts of it. I did not watch the whole thing because it's 4 hours.
Okay, so
Went through as much of it as I could.
so it's not that it's not that people didn't understand what I said. It's that you have no idea what I said because you didn't watch it. You didn't do your due diligence.
I went through as much of it as I could, and I did not hear a clear explanation for what your motives were.
Well, maybe it's because you didn't listen to it.
Well, I still have yet to hear. You don't have to explain it again. If you don't want to, that's fine. And when I do have time, I'll go listen, and maybe I'll find out, but I still don't get it. I listened to the first 2 streams that had you and Sargon both on them when this first came out, and the one before that, Sargon gave, and it didn't make sense then. It just didn't. I didn't know what your motive was.
To you, it didn't make sense. Just a.
It didn't make sense from a motive standpoint. It made sense from a criticism standpoint. Like when the article first came out, I thought, okay, yeah, this is good. Somebody's finally criticizing one of the ethics-only people. And then I read it, and then I watched how you two handled each other on stream, and it became pretty apparent. That's where I started to question this whole thing.
So just to be clear here, Zan, you're arguing your objections to Variloh stem from appearances, correct?
No, not entirely. It stems from actions.
Well,
Yeah,
what
you
actions
haven't-
did?
Yeah, you. And
The
I have another
actions
question.
of
Go ahead.
it stems from the actions of 2 things. Number one, when it first came out, I assumed that you had gotten his side of it. When it came out, when he said on that first stream he'd never been contacted, there was no. When that came out, first point where I start to doubt it, because it's like, okay, now you didn't ask him his side. Second point where I start to doubt it is just the way that the 2 of you guys conducted each other. To me, as an outside observer, it looked like a couple people fighting over whose edict was bigger. That's what it looked like. It did not look like a person trying to objectively criticize someone and the other person throwing a shit fit. It looked like 2 people both throwing a shit fit, and the actual facts were being lost somewhere in between, which was really, really upsetting, because I thought you had a great chance here.
Speaking of facts, I want to get back to the 10 factual inaccuracies in the article, because again, we haven't seen one yet.
Oh, sure, no problem. I'd be happy to go back to that. So, going back to the new article. So, first big one, and it's not 10 factual inaccuracies. Once again, it's 10 corrections. But first big factual inaccuracy is the Kickstarter thing. You said that the link, you couldn't find any link to his Kickstarter. That's what it says. It's like there's no, not to the Kickstarter, what is it? To the new Necromancer site. So you went to the old site, it didn't work, you couldn't find the link to the new site. After the stream, you came in with an update and you said, well, it was on the Facebook, but it can't be seen anywhere else. It's not on the Kickstarter, so it can only be found on the Facebook page. You added that in after the fact.
Yes.
Okay?
Your
so
point? How is
my
that?
point is that seems kind of disingenuous because you were sitting there saying that this is what you said.
Wait, before you continue, I have to interrupt here because he just used the term disingenuous, and I am going to get the definition of disingenuous for the audience because I keep on hearing this word misused over and over again, and it's annoying.
Go right
Disingenuous, not candid or sincere, typically by pretending that one knows less about something than one really does.
So it's a form of lying, basically, to put it into plain terms. So you just accused me, Zan, that I didn't know or pretended to know less and didn't put that in intentionally?
Well, you certainly seem to, because when you say this, another reward every backer would get is a forum rank on Other World Software forums, which depends on the amount of money donated. Despite the game not being finished, this is something that backers can have at the promised time. Let's look at the website and the forums, and you go through it on a video. Not very encouraging. The forums no longer exist to do automatic removal because of inactivity, and we're a product of a free forum provider. The website itself seems abandoned and half broken to begin with, so I can't blame it for not having much forum activity. In the original article, that's where it stops.
Yes.
In the update, you have the link to his new site. So to me, that's a factual inaccuracy because you're saying the website's broken, there's no working links, yet there was a new site, but you didn't find it.
The official website that is linked on the project itself, that is shown to the public, is the website in question. Sargon conceded this and said, you're right, I should update it there. It's not my responsibility to search every corner of the internet when the project itself in its public form where you should go to get all the information links to this site. The new site doesn't even link to the old, the old site doesn't even link to the new site. And by the way, just for discretion here, that doesn't even hurt any of the arguments surrounding it for the simple fact that the new site's a blog. So in the forum context that you're talking about, it's still not there. And again, it comes down to now you're stating that I purposely, because you use the word disingenuous, that I purposely left this out when, quite frankly, if he's presenting a product, it's his responsibility to have the appropriate information updated and linked there. It's not mine to search every corner of the internet to try to find if he actually has a
Facebook
website.
Every corner of the internet? It seems to me if you're doing an article on a company, you would check their Facebook page for information pertaining to the article, regardless of what your motives were. So
if you're checking a company that's doing a Kickstarter, I think you'd check the Kickstarter, especially if the Kickstarter
I would check the Kickstarter and the Facebook and the YouTube and anything they have if I was writing an article on it.
Well, I checked all the stuff. The Facebook, I think it was, of the website was also abandoned, and the website was linked in the sidebar in the Necromancer thing. So if you're going to claim that I purposely left information out, and that is a factual inaccuracy. And by the way, it's not a factual inaccuracy.
I don't know if you purposely did. It's an inaccuracy, straight up.
A factual inaccuracy would be if the website was actually functioning. The website in question does not work, and it's the one linked. There's no factual inaccuracy. You can say at best that some information was left out that there's no possible way I could have had. You can say that.
So
but again, even Sargon conceded, and the important point that even Sargon conceded that, yeah, you're right, the website that should be on the Kickstarter should be the new one. And it doesn't hurt the argument of the forums, once again, because that website is a blog. It's not a website. It's just a simple blog where we post updates. There's no forums. There's no any of that. And again, the old website is still up. It's still broken. And all of the things that I stated there are still true. So how is this a factual inaccuracy and not a failure of Sargon as the product's creator to not properly link his information?
It's a failure of him to link it in, and it's shady as fuck, and it's a failure of you to not use Google, dude. Like, if you're writing an article about this and you're trying to show something, or even if you're not trying to show something, I'm just going to assume that you had good intentions and that you just wanted to show how disingenuous all of this is. And yeah, I am going to use that word again. So let's assume that you were doing that. You're telling me that you wouldn't bother to look on Facebook, that there might be another site, and just simply say, well, the primary site is gone, the forum is gone, but he does have this other site here where he's been posting updates.
Once again,
I don't get that.
The piece that is in question is talking about a Kickstarter. You're going to look at the stuff that's linked in the Kickstarter. If there's a website linked in the Kickstarter, why would I assume there's a second website somewhere in the internet?
I would
And
assume
by the
you would
way,
check the
that's why you
company's
up. And by the
Facebook
way,
before
that's why you
donating money
update.
to it.
And by the way, that's why you update articles. That's the exact reason. I know you're against updating articles, as you stated in the beginning of the stream and your video, but that's the reason why you update articles, because stuff like that, if you're analyzing a Kickstarter, not, you know, does the game has a website somewhere around the world?
So
That's why you
if you
update shit.
miss it and then you turn around and put it back in as an update, that makes it okay.
Back in?
Okay, not back in. If you miss it and you put it in as an update, that makes it okay that you missed it.
If Sargon
See,
didn't have
that's
it
the problem.
if Sargon didn't have it on the Kickstarter page, which is where it should be, and then
So,
he updated it on the Kickstarter page,
Because
you should
he
have it.
fucked up. So because he fucked up, it's okay for you to fuck up.
If I'm
too, right?
reporting on his Kickstarter, my responsibility is to check the Kickstarter. If the Kickstarter has a website,
Where's the responsibility to, you know, interview the owner and ask him what the fuck he's doing?
that's a separate issue, which we're going to get to after you show me all the factual inaccuracies, because
That's
I have a
fine.
lot
I'll
to
move
say.
on to the next one. The next one is the LTD LLC thing. So in the archive, you say this company was an LTD, which is a type of LLC in the UK. That means that the company assets and the stockholders' assets are separate, limited liability. What happens when the company itself does not exist and it starts a project? I frankly could not say. I will not speculate on motive. Rather, this was done because of incompetence or malice. Only Carl Benjamin and his partner can answer. I will say that for a man who concerns himself with ethics, the situation certainly seems to be missing a ton of it. Boy, there are a whole lot of issues with that, but I'm not even going to touch that one. Instead,
No, go into it. I want to hear it.
I'm going to touch the LTD LLC thing. So you changed that in the update after Sargon pointed out that in the UK you can act as a sole proprietorship and there's nothing illegal about that. The company still exists, but it exists only as you as an entity. Is that correct?
Actually, no, that is completely incorrect. Actually, first of all, the LTD did exist and ceased to exist. He now, as a sole proprietor, a separate company, chose the same name. He was very specific about that in the stream that you claim to have watched. So yes, he is now a sole proprietor and acting as such, but the LTD in question did cease to exist. So there's no factual inaccuracy there.
But you didn't see the need to point out the difference instead of saying, well, the company doesn't act. Basically what you're saying here is
I've heard about this LTD versus LSDD like a million times.
No, it's a big
really
fucking deal because you're saying the company doesn't exist, but it does exist.
Well, I heard Variloh and Sargon argue about this for about an hour, and I'm going to ask to drop it because honestly what Variloh wrote in the article was a sentence. It was a sentence that got blown far out of proportion, and it's really not going to.
That's the thing. It's not out of proportion, though, because it's a difference between saying that he totally dissolved any corporate entity but left the Kickstarter up.
Why would you ever name a corporation something
instead of having one?
Actually, once again, the company did cease to exist.
Don't know what you're
doing. It was dissolved for reasons that we cannot speculate on because he didn't say. That company
the
did cease
one
to
was,
exist.
And he made
Another company with the same name now exists. That is true, but again, no factual inaccuracy there because the original company did cease to exist.
The factual inaccuracy is the omission. The original ceased to exist, but a new one was made that took its place. What you were saying when you omit that is there's no company there, basically. What happens when the company itself does not exist when it starts a project, but a different company with the same name tied directly to that project did exist? You didn't say that, and then you said it after the fact. I don't get that. That seems inaccurate to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these things are not factual inaccuracies. Maybe I'm being autistic as fuck. But they really, really seem.
Well, a factual inaccuracy.
I don't understand if you're trying to grill the guy, if you're trying to show evidence that he was doing stuff that's not okay, regardless of motive. Why would you omit those? Why would you omit these things? They're critical details.
The fun part about this is that both two of the quote-unquote factual inaccuracies, both of which I deny are factual inaccuracies, especially the first one, you're stating that I omitted it, that I chose it. I chose to omit it, so you're stating I knew. Prove it.
You omitted it.
Go ahead, prove it. You just made a claim that I purposely omitted it. Prove it. How did I know?
It was.
You have to prove now that I know, because you're making a claim. Prove
Googled
it.
both of these things. In fact, you demonstrate
You can't
that
find
yourself when you found that form.
You can't find sole proprietors registered on Google, actually. As
You could
Cargon
have looked
explained,
up
he
the
doesn't
new
use Tax ID.
company. Yeah,
And make
you
the
could have looked up
assumption
the
that
new
he's
company.
probably a sole proprietor with the same name? I can't make that assumption.
Yeah, but this ties back to the point that you could have fucking asked him too. Again, separate issue, but still,
now,
this is where this
separate
stuff
issue.
is coming from.
Okay,
this is where a lot of this stuff is coming from, because you have
you have
things
no
here
proof
that
that I
I see
omitted anything.
No, it looks to me like you omitted
looks to
it
me,
because
feels
I
this
don't
way.
see.
I see it in the stars, but
No. Explain to me why, if you had explain to me why, if you had the motive of showing that the guy was doing shady shit, that you would omit things like that.
Again,
if you missed it, that's one thing.
To interject,
but
because
there's a pattern of you missing it.
Okay, to interject here.
That's all I'm saying.
You're both going to a shouting match, so I think the real issue is if you could point out any factual inaccuracies, like you can prove that Variloh was has factual inaccuracies in his article either before or after he updated it.
No, he can't. Because, and again, I don't want.
No,
and I don't.
And there is the chronological thing too, where you presented comments.
You just said you didn't care about it. Now you're getting into it because you
I don't care about it as much, but it's
I'll
still
talk about it.
inaccurate
I'll talk about
when you present it the wrong way.
Oh, okay.
And then you turn around after the
into
fact and you admit that you presented it the wrong way. See, this is
No,
the
I
thing.
didn't admit it at all. You see, you should have read or you should have listened to the streams.
No, you did. You said he's accusing me of being slanderous, so I changed it.
No, read the whole quote.
Gladly. I won't give credence to any of the slanderous claims the other two developers. Going up again. Update, since Sargon claimed on this stream that I'm manipulating my audience by placing this image last, I'm going to post a response Sargon gave last and won't change what is written, to show how the point in the next paragraph is not affected. Why? Because his bickering with this individual is of no interest nor relevance to the next points made. How is it of no relevance?
No. You just said, because again, Zan, you're all over the place. You're saying you omitted things intentionally, then you can't prove it, and you backpedal. Now you're changing it from.
I'm not backpedaling at all. You definitely omitted things.
Prove it.
I don't know why you did it, but you did omit things.
Prove it. Prove that I omitted it.
You're the accuser. Prove it as much as see, and that's the thing. You are the accuser. You are the one who went after the guy. Who chose
and I provided my evidence,
and
now you're making a statement about me with
no
evidence.
evidence that was slanted, and you left things out, and you are now claiming after the fact that you left things out because you couldn't find them. But you were the one who did the initial research. So to me, you're the accuser. Everyone else is either a spectator or the accused or some mixture thereof. That's how I see this. That's
and
why
what is wrong exactly with levying accusations when you have evidence to back up your claims?
There's nothing wrong with leveling accusations when you have evidence to back up your claims. If you fucking do the whole thing instead of just throwing it all out there.
Now, hold on. This is a point that I'm actually going to take Zan up on, because this is one that I actually argued with the man Green, and he lost spectacularly on. And that is the argument that you can have holistic evidence. You cannot. That is a logical fallacy.
Define holistic evidence. Absolute evidence. No, that's not the point. You don't need absolute evidence. You just need to be as complete as possible.
But that's the thing. Complete.
And you need to not
exactly
mix
the same
opinions with the facts. You present the facts and then the opinions and then the accusations. You don't put them both in the same thing. Otherwise,
yes, you can.
The definition Who says you can't? Of op-ed.
You can absolutely. No, that's not an op-ed. I already explained what an op-ed is to you. I would advise you to go.
Definition of the op-ed is something that doesn't have a lot of research and has opinion mixed in. This is somewhere in between.
No, it's not somewhere in between. You haven't proven
it
again.
It's somewhere
You're making all these claims, and you failed to prove them.
But it also has opinions mixed in.
That doesn't matter. You keep saying, again, you have to prove that it doesn't have enough research and it doesn't have enough evidence, even after the updates of the
but that's not what I'm criticizing you on. I'm not criticizing you on whether it has enough. I'm not criticizing you on whether it has enough research or enough evidence. I'm criticizing you on the fact that you had to add a bunch of updates after the fact.
Bunch of updates.
Didn't ask the guy.
Again,
that is my entire argument.
For the benefit of the audience, your entire argument, which first went from 15 to 10 to 8, is based off of two things. Two very specific things. One, that there's absolutely no possible way that you can find the sole proprietor thing. And to actually include that, I would have to assume that he's a sole proprietor, something I cannot do. and the other one specifically to the fact that he failed to provide his website in the correct place. Me criticizing a Kickstarter and all, you criticize the Kickstarter. What do you do with Kickstarters? You update the website there. So again, both of your statements that I don't have enough evidence and it's an op-ed, it's bullshit. It's not an op-ed.
No,
it does have
more. These are just the two I'm latching on to right now because they're the two most glaring ones. Yeah, I got another one. Sargon highly commended his friend V. Monroe for his handling of the situation and also interviewed Damian Rain. It was more a fluff piece for the AJSA than anything else. Do you have proof of that besides just
that he did the interview?
That he did that it was a fluff piece for the AJSA. He concentrated solely on false claims of his now reformed buddy V. Monroe, and in the process ignored all of the other claims against the forum, either because of ignorance.
Did you watch the linked video?
The reason he only knows. I watched it. I did watch it.
So you deny that he did the things that I'm stating he did?
I don't think that's what he's doing. I think what you're stating is opinion, not fact.
Well, the facts there, again, this is opinion based off of facts. The facts, he did do a video with Damian Rain, and I present it again. The fact is he didn't do a video with Damian Rain.
The opinion is that it was a fluff piece that was based on false claims.
Yeah, and I provide you the video so you can go and decide for yourself if that's a true statement.
But this is what I'm talking about, though. You have these things mixed right in with the facts.
It
the facts
doesn't
are
matter.
There, and the opinion
no,
is in
the first you put in the facts, and then you come to your conclusion about the facts. You can absolutely do that.
Maybe this is a difference of writing style, then. So you don't see the need in separating the things. Like, okay, here are the facts, and then here's what I think happened.
I think you're arguing format more than anything else.
Format is part of it, yeah.
Because I'm not stating in the video, Sargon talks about how he likes puppies. You see, that would be mixing an opinion with facts, and that would make it untrue. I specifically say he did a video with Damian Rain. Here it is. Look at it. Decide if I'm full of shit or not. And it was, to me, a fluff piece where he only talks about how his friend, which he did, that is a fact, he only talks about how his friend handled the situation and leaves out the situation in question. That's a fact, too. The opinion there, it's a fluff piece. It's surrounded by facts that you can go and prove for yourself. That's what actual journalists should be doing. They should show you the evidence. They can then tell you what their conclusions are, but hey, go check for yourself. An op-ed is someone who only puts in opinions with maybe a 2 or 3 facts in. So, again, and I'm going to keep going back to that because you keep stating I did it. No, excuse me, let me finish. You specifically stated I did an op-ed. You failed to prove that.
Yeah, I don't think I failed to prove that when you've mixed all the facts together with opinions, because how is someone supposed to differentiate?
Sorry, my microphone disconnected. Can you repeat after I said you failed to prove that?
Yeah, I will repeat that again. So the problem I have with this is, how is someone to tell by definition that it is not an op-ed when there are opinions mixed in with fact throughout the entire thing, back to back in some cases?
Because the facts are complete.
So because the facts are complete,
and they're provided to you.
To dilute them with opinions,
it's not being
and then say that it's not an op-ed. No, see, because I'm going to take you to task on that if you're going to stand by that, because I can show you
you're making a false
case
statement
where Ben Kuchera did the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing, and you keep mentioning it, and you try to conflate the two to push a specific idea.
I don't have to conflate it, dude, because it is the same thing.
No, it is not. Ben
so it's
Kuchera
okay when you do it, but not when he does.
No, because it's not the same thing. Ben Kuchera made statements
he presents facts and then presented false statements next to them, or statements that were his opinion, some of which turned out to be false, some of which were merely his opinion. But he put them back to back to back in the same.
The problem is that in that said opinion, he presents. The problem is that in that same opinion, he presented facts, and the facts that he was presenting to the left in that specific article, if it's the one that I think you're talking about, were incomplete. That's what's an op-ed. Incomplete, not well researched. Your job now to prove is not that I put in opinions, but that there's very little research and there's provable wrong.
Right, except that's not my point. I never
then
said
it's not
that
an
you
op-ed,
put in
man.
complete research.
That's the definition of op-ed. I'm sorry. Then it's
but
not an op-ed.
I never said that you did not put in incomplete research.
Then it's not an op-ed.
That's fair enough if you want to take me to task on the definition of an op-ed. I would concede that it does not fit the definition of an op-ed because the research is complete, mostly. However, I will turn around and the next thing that I'm going to say is, okay, it's not an op-ed, but exactly. Like, what is it then? Because the research is complete, but you mix it back to back to back with the stuff. You then put in changes later on based on things that Sargon said. And this all, again, stems from the fact that you didn't ask the guy for an interview before you published. You published and then put in his updates afterwards. And there's one final point that I want to make about why I think that's a bad thing. The reason why I think that's a bad thing is that even though you put in his points and you did clearly define them as his points, you're still taking what he said now at face value. So assume for a second that you were right and Sargon is trying to cover this stuff up, or that he is lying. You've now included some of his lies in the article, which you could have avoided by you could have avoided the context.
Can I cut you off real quick because you said something that you need to clear up? Can I cut you off real quick because you said something that you need to clear up? You said,
sure.
And that you were right. He was trying to hide things. Show where I stated that he was trying to hide things.
No, I said let's assume, sir.
That I was right.
Let's assume, for the sake of argument, let's assume.
That I was right, is what you're saying.
No. Let's assume for the sake of argument that you were right that he was hiding something.
But I never made that statement. How could I be right? How could I be right about something I never stated?
You stated at the bottom, for somebody who seems to espouse ethics, this situation seems to be lacking a ton of it. So to me that says that you are indicating that he was trying to hide something by not talking about this, by not dealing with it, by not handling it, by just letting it sit and letting the Kickstarter compile money. The way that
so your subjective conclusion means that because I say he's unethical, based on my own ethical standards.
You wrote.
No. I didn't write that he was hiding shit. That was the conclusion you got from me saying this is unethical.
No, you wrote the conclusion that he is lacking ethics in this situation. Yes. By the way, I will note that you removed that in the updates, which was really interesting.
I did not remove that, sir. Let me go and look it back. Update. There's a no.
Okay, no, fair point. You underlined it and bolded it.
You should really do your research, man.
Put another update. The conclusion highlighted above is based off the entirety of the article. I believe my readers are intelligent enough to look at the evidence and reach their own conclusions. But how are they going to do that if you have opinion mixed in with all the facts and there's no...
Because all the facts are clearly linked, clearly shown, this is a fact, check it out, clearly delimited, here's another fact, check it out. It's all linked, it's all there. Now you're arguing format. You don't like my format, which at the end means nothing to me. You can have your subjective opinion, we can agree to disagree. Your entire argument is based partially on format, and the other part that you feel that I'm saying he's hiding things, which again, feelings. That's what you feel, Zan.
No, it's not a feel. That's what you said. When you say something like that, you're implying motive. No, when you say it's lacking a ton of ethics, I'm
saying that he's being unethical. Done. I'm not saying why he's being unethical.
And then that's where we disagree. Well, and then that's where we're going to have to agree to disagree, because the way that looks to me, factually,
the way that looks
to me, yeah, well, I'm just one guy, dude, okay? I'm not the judge of all ethics and all facts. Sorry to break it to you.
Then
the way
that's
it
your
looks
opinion,
to me,
is what I'm stating.
As an outside observer, from a factual standpoint, is that you are implying motive. And if you are implying motive, then, you know, that's where I have a problem with this. You could have saved yourself from that if you had simply said, "But my opinion is."
Go to the second paragraph of the beginning of the article. Excluding the update and edit and all that. Go to the second paragraph.
To point out questionable decisions, both as a developer and a YouTuber, Mr. Carl Benjamin has taken. I do not this as an attempt to take down Mr. Benjamin, because as consumers, and I was glad that you put that in there, by the way, it's our responsibility to point out the flaws, mistakes, and ill intentions of not the ill intentions, right there. Ill intentions. The flaws, mistakes, and ill intentions.
Finish the paragraph. Finish the sentence. You can't just
not those we dislike, but also those we love and admire. I do not expect to be applauded for this. But what I do wish to accomplish is that you, yes, you, question things and ultimately look for the truth and what is best for the industry we all love. So
you asked for motive.
Intentions?
So here we go. First of all, I'm not saying that Sargon here has ill intentions. I'm saying that it's our responsibility to point out ill intentions and the other two things that I mentioned of everyone in the industry, especially those that we love and admire. You can't stop there and say, you said ill intentions, obviously you're talking about Sargon. No, this is the introduction where I'm doing exactly what you asked for, and that if you read the article, you should know, and it's establishing my motive. Because you asked that to me, and I didn't answer, and I told you should watch the stream. But it's even better, it's here. And you either didn't read it or you
I read it. I heard it. I read it and I heard it in the stream.
And you omitted it, didn't you?
No, I didn't omit it. It doesn't make sense. And the reason why it doesn't make sense is because if that's what you were trying to do, why did you leave things out? Why did you do the format the way? Like,
Here we
these are
go
all
again, trying to leave things out.
No, it's not. It's all part of the same thing. You chose to do this a specific way. When you've defended this, you said it was my choice as a writer to do it the way that I
Yes,
did
and it is. Format is a writer's choice.
Yeah, and it is your choice. But if your motive is what you say it is, why did you choose to do it
How
that
does
way?
me choosing that format contradict my motive in any way, shape, or form? Besides
Because
the fact
if that
you
was
don't
your
like
motive, you would have separated the facts and the opinions.
That's a nonsense claim right
No,
there.
it's
That is
not
based
a
on your
nonsense
subjective.
claim.
Yes, it is.
No, it's based on evidence, and here's the evidence. The evidence is
Oh
that
my
other
God.
people who have done the same thing, who have said the same exact words that you use, that this is my motive, this is what I want to do, critique these people. But then that turned out not to be what they were doing. They went on to do horrible, horrible, horrible other things. Or
Yeah,
to
and it
just
was
outright
proven that they
slander
did those
people.
horrible things. Now you
Yeah,
have to prove it to me.
and it was proven that they
So
did those
basically,
horrible
because
things.
they did it, I must be specifically. So now it's
No,
guilt by
dude,
association
that's
in
no,
the
it's not
finest
guilt.
way.
No, it's not guilt by
Yes, we use
association.
similar formats. We
Are
did
you
similar
going to
things.
keep cutting me
Henceforth,
off and not let me get to the point, or are you going to let me get to the point?
well,
Because there is a point here.
okay, go ahead. Just try to finish it in less than 15 minutes.
Okay, I will. So the point here is, it's very simple. If I'm an outside observer and I already don't like the way that people are behaving in general in the context of Gamergate, which at the time was the ethics cuck stuff, and I see an article like this come out, okay, and I know for a fact that other people have put out articles like this with those same claims, some of which turn out to have some merit, but then turned around later and did things that proved that they were only in it for themselves. And there is a trend of that happening because it's happened at least 4 times that I can count. 4 different people, 4 times. If I have that as context, if I've been around this stuff since the beginning and I have that as context, what am I left to believe when I see all these updates coming in, you know, the opinions next to the facts, you chose not to ask the guy, like, what conclusion am I supposed to draw? Because you said you think that your readers are intelligent enough to draw their own conclusion. The conclusion I'm left to draw from this, because of the way you presented it, because of the choices that you made as a writer, is that Sargon was not unethical, he was hypocritical. But then, in future articles, you go on to attack other people. So
Attack.
what conclusion am I? Yeah, which you did. If you want to say that calling somebody a taco whale is not attacking, I'm not really sure what to say to that dude. I mean,
Okay,
it's
we are
comedy,
at the
but
1 hour
you're
mark.
still attacking.
We are at the
Well, we
1 hour
can't-
mark.
I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna wrap it up because I don't
No,
think that
I'd
we're
actually,
agree.
I'd actually like to have to say a few words here.
Go for it if you want. I'll shut up.
Okay. I don't get where Zan's coming from with all this, because to me it comes across his entire argument has all been about form and presentation and appearances rather than actual wrongdoing. Like, he could have pointed out either actual factual inaccuracies Variloh made in the article, which if I don't believe there's any, but if Zan believes there are, he could have just said, oh, look, here's some evidence that contradicts what the claims that Variloh was making. And he didn't do that at any point in this stream. He also didn't bother to point out things like another argument he was trying to make but didn't succeed in was saying that Variloh didn't
Due diligence.
correct. And he could have said either by saying, well, you didn't request for comment, or you didn't search for this evidence that I found. He didn't make any of those claims. All he did was criticize Variloh based on the form of the argument. He even went to the whole chronology thing, which people don't seem to get, that you can state events outside of the order they actually happened, so long as you don't actually lie about the order in which those events took place. Like, I know it's hard for some of you to grasp out there, but you know that's the fact.
No, you can, but it hurts your argument and it makes people think that you're doing something you're not doing.
It only hurts your argument if all you care about is it only hurts your argument if all you care about is appearances. If you actually care about substance, it doesn't hurt your argument.
Yeah, I do care about substance. That's the problem.
But you seem to care more about appearances. Is my point.
I don't. I care about the substance. If you
I'd
chose
like
not
I
to-
like to answer something. I think you made your
Go
point
for
with
it.
John Kelly. Couple of things. Since Kelly I think wants to wrap this up. Number one, why did I not reach Sargon for comment? Which is to me the only valid question you've asked in this whole thing. The reason why I didn't ask to him, as I've explained on multiple other streams, is that I personally believe that to ask someone else to ask someone for a comment, you have to do that when it's a he said, she said situation. I don't have to ask Sargon, hey Sargon, is your Necromancer game delayed by 15 months? I don't have to ask him that because that's plain as day. It's right there. It's the reason why I did not use Giuseppe and his arguments and specifically put them there to highlight the possibility that the LTD no longer existed, which it didn't. That's why I didn't reach him for comment. I didn't feel it was necessary, and I stand by it. And every time I've made that argument, people go, okay, well, that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, I don't have to ask people, in my personal point of view, I don't have to ask people for comment about something that is already evident, is already there. I only have to ask them for comment when there's sides of the story, when there's an argument. Like if I would have made an article about Giuseppe, he was fired from Sargon's thing, and that's ill-doing, then yes, then I should reach both of them for comment. That's why I didn't do it in this particular case. If you don't agree with that, if you don't like that, fine, man, that's on you. The second thing is the accusation that you've made on multiple streams about yellow journalism and about due diligence. It's very funny to me that you say that I didn't do my due diligence exclusively because I didn't try to reach Sargon for comment, yet you have turned around and for the last month on every stream you can get on and every time that this comment comes up and on the comment section of my YouTube, as we just proved in the beginning of this, was full bullshit and you didn't really do any research whatsoever, you just went with the claim that was made. You've been stating that I'm doing yellow journalists, and you haven't tried to reach me for comment, have you? In fact, the only time we've talked, which was why I was looking at our Facebook conversation, was way back, and you hadn't even read the article at your own admission at that point, and I waited for you to do it, and instead what I was met with was you going on stream and talking smack, which I have no problem with. My issue was when you specifically stated that I was deleting comments on the YouTube. That's why I called you out yesterday. That's what I took issue with. Now, to define yellow journalism, because you don't seem to know what it means, yellow journalism, yellow press, is a type of journalism that presents little to no legitimate researched news and intended to use it as eye-catching headlines for news in newspapers. We went through that. You can't keep saying I've used yellow journalism when you haven't proven that I did little research. You have that there's very little evidence here, and that the intention is to push a specific agenda, which is the other accusation I've been met with. And quite frankly, the response to that is, if I'm pushing a narrative, if that were to be true, Milo pushes narratives all the time, and nobody has a problem with that. So,
no, I have a problem with that.
Oh, well, great. Then you're consistent at the very least. But again, that's not for me to have to prove. It's kind of like in this situation, Sargon is innocent before proven guilty, but I'm guilty before. But let me finish. I'll let you finish, right? So, in this situation, I'm guilty, and I'm not a journalist, which is a claim that you've tried to make twice, not just in the stream, but in your video. I'm not a journalist, I'm a guy with a blog. You can say that I should be held to standards because I'm informing the public, and I agree, which is why I hold you to the same standards when you make comments on a stream or on a YouTube comment. So we can agree there, but I'm not a journalist, and it's important to make that distinction. Now, at the end of the day, you're asking me why did I write things a certain way, and you're stating that because these other 4 people have been found guilty afterwards, then because that evidence is there, mine must be in a similar, or at least I appear to be in a similar trend. Well, quite frankly to you, that is guilt by association. That is the definition. And until you can prove that I've made any of these things or I've done any of those wrongdoings that they have since done, you can't use that.
Not at all what I'm attempting to prove. I haven't been able to lay out the context completely, which, you know, I am kind of long-winded on this shit, so I blame myself. But that being said, this is the context. I think your article was well-researched. I think it was properly researched. The reason why I have said that I think that it's yellow journalism, and we are going to agree to disagree on this because I still think that it was, is because, number one, omission, fallacy by omission, but number two, the big one is the context, because you have then gone on to do more stuff in the same vein, some of which has less facts, but that is for another day. You've gone on and done this, and you have a pattern of doing this with the AJSA before, which I actually agree with everything you said about the AJSA, because they're fucking shit.
Dan, why is it that you agree with so many of his points but always criticize the appearance of his point, and then you argue with me earlier that you don't care about appearances more, that you care more about substance than you do about appearances, when that clearly isn't the case?
That's what I'm trying to say, okay? The reason why it matters in this case, because normally it fucking doesn't, the reason why it matters in this case is because if you are trying to show that somebody has done some shit, regardless of whether you're trying to show, you know, what their motive was or not, If you're trying to show that they've done some shit, then you're taking it to another level. You have another standard. You have to be really accurate about how you write that to not engage in, to not fall into the same pitfalls of the people that we face and of other people who promote narratives all the time, like Milo. Especially when, and this is coming from somebody who's been burned multiple times by people putting out shit that's not true. Okay? Multiple times I've been burned by, and when I say burned, I don't mean by me repeating it, I mean by them slandering me and other people, like haters and other stuff, by putting out shit that's not true, by narrative building, all that good stuff, by pushing a narrative. It is important, I think, that if you're going to be going after those same people, you need to try to do it better than what they're doing. And I understand that you're saying that your choice was to do it the way you wanted to do it. Okay, fair enough. But I think that honestly, it's a really slippery slope in the context of everything else that's happened. Because other people have done the same thing and gone down that road and turned out to just be spurs. So what are people left to think is going to happen? What opinion are they left to form? That's the problem. The well is poisoned. That's not necessarily your fault, but the well is poisoned on this. So when you go in, I think that you should have taken greater care of recognizing that. That's my big hang-up. That's why. It's like a disregard for that.
The sad part is that I agree with a lot of what you said. I agree that it's a problem when people go after people without evidence. The failure that I'm seeing here, and it's disappointing, the failure that I'm seeing here is that you haven't proved that I've done any of the things that they've done. You haven't proved that you just admitted the article was well researched. The number one problem with these journalists is that they don't do their due diligence. You just admitted that the article was well researched. You said you have to try to do things good. It's clear that I tried to do things as best as I could, and the proof is that I had no problem updating where I thought it was pertinent. I even updated the specific chronology thing that was not an issue, that I stand by that, to show that it changes nothing, and it in fact changes nothing. So, I've done all of these things. You continue stating that I've left something out or omitted, and then you contradict yourself and saying I did do the research. I'm failing to see the similarity with me. The only similarity that you're trying to point out is that I put in opinions, and what it seems to me is that you don't like opinions in articles. You like press release style articles, which is your personal taste, but that doesn't mean I've done anything wrong. So I'm still waiting for you to point out what have I done wrong, which is the consistent failure that I see.
The execution, the way you chose to do it, not interviewing the guy, the fact that you
I would explain why I didn't interview him. I already explained why I didn't interview him.
Yeah, I know, and I think that was a really, really bad decision that cast the rest of the article into doubt.
So at the end of the day, you don't agree with my subjective point of view as to why he shouldn't be interviewed that I've given you, and I don't agree with your subjective point that why I have to interview every single person, especially
That's pretty much the size of it. Yeah, we do not have.
So your big thing is all based, because in reality that's what I've been seeing. The whole thing is based on you don't like the format I'm using, which is your personal taste, and you don't like that I didn't interview him. That's all your two things. Well, I got good news for you. After I interviewed him, after we went on his stream, that you've left out the fact that his stream was not with good intentions. He had a third person on. You want to talk about titles, his titles is talking about necromancer, insinuating that the entire article is about that. He hasn't bothered linking to the updated article. He hasn't even updated his archive.
You updated the article after the stream, not before.
Yes, it doesn't matter. If you
why
update
would
the
you link
article,
to the article in the stream if the stream happened before
on the bottom,
the article?
if you request someone, I want you to change the chronology, and I specifically disagree with you and say that's stupid, but I'm going to do it for you. Shouldn't you say, well, he updated it as per my request?
And he didn't say that at any point after that.
No, he hasn't. He not only didn't say that, he blocked me on Twitter. Sargon is not about getting the truth out. And by the way, he conceded, which is the part that you seem to be forgetting. When we went on the stream and talked to, he conceded to every point.
True. Yeah, which is why
everything was true.
I have a list of criticisms for Sargon too.
So if that's the case, if the whole point is interviewing someone to get all sides of the story, and at the end of the day, we disagree that I had to do it here, but at the end of the day, I kind of did it by going on his stream, and he confirmed everything. Every single point, he confirmed it, okay? Every one of them. And that's
he confirmed the opinions. He confirmed that those things happened. The opinions indicate that these things happen, but they happen because reason X, but I'll let the reader, fill in the blank. That's the problem. That's why I have a problem with the format, because
So you don't like
the
that
format doesn't matter, but it does matter when you're going after somebody on specific stuff and you choose not to interview them. You said that you believed that there was not another side to this, right?
No, there wasn't.
What about his side? He was the guy
who was
who
proven
owned the
that there is.
company.
What is the other side of you haven't
So
really
the guy who
the
put the
15
money
months.
into the company and came up with the idea and brought the people together and was the indie game developer doesn't have a side to his story.
Doesn't
so
have
by
the side.
that logic, Aaron Giangi does not have a
No,
side
you're
to
trying.
his story
You're
either.
intentionally twisting something. There is no other
It's
side
not
of the
intentional,
story.
dude. It's
Yes,
black and
you
white. You are insisting that he doesn't have a side, and I am insisting
There is no
that
other
he
side
does.
to that you're
Whether
delayed
it's
for
wrong or
15
not
months.
not
That is
for
a
you to
fact.
decide.
Why would I present another side to, sir? Are you delayed 15 months? Well, yes, I am delayed 15 months.
Because
it's a error.
that wasn't the
Why do I
only
need
thing
it?
the article was about. It was about the whole thing with the opinions.
All of the facts, you interview people to get the facts right. You don't interview the people to change your opinion. And the facts were all right.
Why then would you mix the opinions into the facts? If that's
I
that's the
didn't mix
problem I
them.
have with
I
you.
made my
I don't know what
conclusions
you're
based off
on
of
about.
facts.
See, that's the problem I have with your motive. That's the problem I have with your opening paragraph. That's the problem I have with the whole thing. That is my hang-up. That is where I got hung up. That is
Then why are you accusing him of
I don't
lying?
get.
Then why are you accusing him of lying if all you care about is the appearances?
Yeah.
If all you care about is the appearances, why don't you just leave a comment under his blog saying, hey, you could do this better, and offer constructive feedback and criticism instead of accusing him of lying?
I'll concede that that was fucking stupid to do, but I will counter that by saying that I was pretty fucking pissed off because both of you, Sargon and Variloh, are conducting yourselves like children. So I decided to fucking call you.
Why do you act like a moral superior when, in fact, all the stuff
I'm not a
you've
moral
been doing
superior.
is...
I'm a guy with a YouTube channel and an opinion, and that's all I am. And I have never.
But when
sought
you
more
say
than
that you're acting like children, you are de facto acting like a moral superior, and you're acting no better than, say, Sargon.
No, not really. Other people have said the same thing. I'm pretty much.
Other people have said that
that
Sargon was full of shit. Other people have said that I did a good
that you're
job.
full of shit.
So other people have said I'm full of shit. Other people have said I did a great job. Other people have said Sargon did a great job. At the end of the day, you're arguing opinion as if it matters.
No, it does actually fucking matter when you mix the opinions with the. See,
I didn't mix it. I came to conclusions off of the facts. You don't like it, and you've established this in the past. When people do any kind of opinion whatsoever, you just want a press release. Here are all the facts and list. Do whatever.
No, I don't want to press
That's an
release.
argument. That's an argument of
God.
format, not of facts. Okay, you have failed.
What
again,
happens when the facts are dependent on the format?
Well, it's a good thing that didn't happen
Because
here.
that's
did
the
it?
accusation. No, it did exactly
Really?
happen here. The facts
Tell me
were
how the
researched for the format.
Tell me how the video where he actually talked with Damian Rain is in any way affected by my opinion of said.
Because
video.
the argument that okay, I guess I'm playing devil's advocate now because this is not the argument that you made. I'll give you credit. This is not the article. This is not the argument that you made, but the argument that was made by the people who read the article, at least some of them, on the basis of this article, on the basis of the facts you presented, was that he's unethical because he did these things. That is the opinion that people drew from that article.
So I'm responsible for the opinions that others have?
No, you're not responsible for the opinions that others have, but you are responsible for presenting the facts in such a way that they stand on their own merit. And what I am telling you is that they do stand on their own merit independently as facts. They don't stand on their own merit demonstrating that he was unethical.
Okay, so now we've gotten into, this is another disagreement that people have had with me. You disagree with my personal view on ethics, which is...
But I have to point... Wait, before you continue, Variloh, I do have to point out something here, though. Zan, your disagreement with Variloh just completely shifted. You shifted the goalpost from saying that he did the article all wrong and he was acting unethical to you disagree with the opinion that he opted to state in the article.
No, I'm standing by that original thing. I think that he was unethical. I conceded that he did not lie, but I think that Variloh did do yellow journalism in presenting this the way that he did, because the presentation was draw the conclusion that Sargon is unethical. That's how it came off. Draw the conclusion that Sargon is unethical.
Unfortunately,
the facts don't show that. They show that he was incompetent, not that he was unethical.
Unfortunately,
and the fact that you had to update the article with stuff after the fact, because you chose not to interview him, your choice.
But again,
that wasn't why it was updated, Zan. That wasn't why it was updated. It had
I
nothing
don't
to do with
really
the
care
issue.
why you updated it. The point is that you did.
But you're making a statement basing yourself off that I updated it because of your
Like
reason.
the Facebook link, which was not there. Like the LTD LLC thing, which, we've already covered that ground. That's the point. It
We
changed
covered
the
that ground. We
context.
realized it was true, and the sole
updates
proprietorship.
Honestly, at this point, the argument's
context.
just going to go around circles over and over again. I don't think this is at all.
Yeah, I probably will. I still think that was an act of yellow journalism. I hope that you do
Zan,
better.
you don't know
stuff
what
in the
yellow
future,
journalism
but you're
is, so
not.
I don't
Yeah,
think
you
you have a
don't
basis.
know what. Yeah, I
No,
already
I
defined it
do
for
know
you.
what yellow journalism is, and you're
Well,
both
I've
wrong.
provided
Like,
you with two definitions that I've given John Kelly
no,
as well,
I very
and
well
you
know
don't
what
seem. And you're just saying, no, it's yellow journalism because I don't like the presentation. That's, well, man, I mean,
No,
people
it's
can
yellow
look up
journalism
yellow
because
Well,
journalism.
I tried to be neutral for a
while.
while in this, but I admit I can't be because I honestly do not see.
I don't care. You can
The
make
main
a sign.
reason-
It doesn't matter.
The main reason
If
why
you
I
research
cannot
the facts
agree.
with the context, then it's yellow journalism.
The context of what other people have done is the context that you're talking about.
The main problem I have with Zan's argument is that his position is so.
Go ahead.
The main problem I have with Zan's argument is that it's self-defeating. He's arguing that Variloh should assume on good faith that Sargon is a good boy, right? That Sargon did nothing wrong. At the same time, though, Zan is arguing that it's okay for him to argue that Variloh had malice of intent when he wrote the piece because, in his opinion, the piece was inconclusive. Now, the thing about journalism is that you're never going to have completely holistic evidence. You're not going to have everything, 100% objectivity. It is impossible. It is scientifically provable to be impossible. Like, even in a court of law, they say beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond any doubt whatsoever. So this holistic evidence notion, this absolutist evidence, is completely ridiculous. And this is just an absurd standard to hold people to when writing. Now, the thing is, though, if Variloh did make mistakes or errors in his piece, I don't understand why Variloh, Sargon, or anyone or any member of the public cannot go to Variloh and say, hey, you missed something, point it out, and Variloh can just correct it. That's the thing I don't get. And if you're going to accuse someone of having not done the due diligence, you have to show proof that they didn't do the due diligence. Like, they deliberately overlooked facts that they knew about deliberately. And in this case, Zan has not presented any evidence for it, and then he still says that he's committing yellow journalism. That's the thing I don't get. That's the thing I don't get with this.
Absurd and holistic standard. Okay, I'm going to try this one more time. The problem I have with this is that yellow journalism can be caused by format. If you mix in opinions and if you do things in such a way that the facts are slanted, or more importantly in this case, that the facts can then be discarded easier because the article doesn't cover enough of the story. When you say that there's no side to the actual developer, because I'm not looking at this from a Sargon point of view, I'm looking at this as another indie developer who's caught in a corruption scam, but his side of it's not in there. In all the other cases, their side's been in there, and their side was, no, fuck you, I'm right. But people actually did the due diligence to get that side beforehand, and it changed the entire context of the article and the facts. When you don't do that, and you put the facts out there, and you also mix your opinions in with them, and it casts it in a light of, it looks like he's doing something shady, but in fact, all you can see is that he was just incompetent, you've set yourself up for failure. You've set it up so that the guy can then laugh it off, along with whoever else wants to come along, and just disregard it. So if you did actually want the motive of providing an honest criticism of one of the ones that we love, you ruined the opportunity to do that when you did that. That is the problem that I have with this. If you choose to disagree with me on that, that's fine. I'm not, some great arbiter of facts. I'm a dude with opinions. Pretty much all of this is my fucking opinion.
In your opinion, Variloh should have gotten Sargon's side of the story and printed that along with Variloh's side of the story.
It would have made or integrated it as long as it was there, not having.
Well, I have a very big question for you then.
It would have made a huge fucking difference.
How come you never asked Ralph to do any of that?
How come I never asked Ralph to do any of that? One very simple reason, because Ralph says that he adheres to no standards of ethics, that he besmirches people and is clickbait,
What is my
and that
standard
he
of
doesn't
ethics?
care. He stamps that on his website and on his product. He says it almost every day. He says it on
What is
Twitter.
my
He says
standard
it
of
on
ethics?
streams. He says it on his articles.
Well, my
It doesn't
question is,
make what
why are
he's
you?
doing right,
What
but
is?
that's
No, no,
what
wait a
he's
minute.
selling.
Wait a minute. If the problem is the standards of ethics, because you're holding me to your standards of ethics, what is my standard of ethics? I'm asking you because you should know because I've said it multiple times on the streams. So what is my standard
The
of ethics?
standard of ethics that you are espousing in that is that you are criticizing somebody for doing stuff that's disingenuous.
You didn't watch the streams clearly.
No, I watched the streams. Your standard of ethics, that's pretty much what your standard of ethics
That
is.
was a
That there are
direct question which we dedicated about 30 minutes to on the last stream that you didn't watch that I sent you that you didn't know about, but yet you sent a question to, and I answered your question of yellow journalism there as well, but you didn't know that because you didn't watch it and you admitted as such and you told me I could say that, and that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. I specifically explained my standard of ethics in that stream, in which you should have viewed because you sent a question in, and I answered your question, which was a loaded question asking me why did you do yellow journalism, rather than actually proving you did yellow journalism. And my problem with this whole thing is
This isn't really getting anywhere. It's becoming ad nauseum. Like, it really is at this point.
Let me just make my closing point, and then
Alright.
whatever. My problem with all of this is.
really is.
My problem with all of this is you continuously are stating first, and in the stream you've shifted quite a bit because first you're saying that I intentionally left stuff out when you couldn't prove that, you moved away from that. Then you
No,
said,
I still think that you did. I can't prove it, but I think
well,
that
that's
you
fine.
did.
Well, if you can't prove it, then it's just a bullshit claim. You're just pulling that out.
Yeah,
of
you know, like leaving stuff out of the article and then claiming the guy's unethical, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Again, you did it again. Prove that I left it out intentionally. And again, the information that was updated, the majority of it just reinforced my point. It just reinforced my claim.
In your opinion.
No, my claims. It reinforced it. More evidence.
Claims.
It proved my opinions. It actually
Not
proved
facts.
my
Claims. So you admit that they
Yes, but
were
it proves-
claims. So you
Yep.
admit that they were claims.
No, I admit that there are
You
claims
said they were
and
claims.
conclusions. I admit that there's conclusions in the article.
This is
and
a lot of
Oh,
pedantic
so there
minutia
are
because
claims.
Yeah, he's trying to
Okay.
do minutia. It's clear, but let
No,
him.
it's not
Let him
minutia,
use loose words.
dude. You're not being consistent.
No, I am.
this is a lot of pedantic minutia, and the point I was getting at by bringing up Ralph is because I don't just have to bring up Ralph. I can bring up Ralph, Tech Raptor, Niche Gamer, Breitbart, so many other publications that Zan never ever comments on, and even endorses a lot of these publications, and then goes ahead and says, "Oh well, Variloh in this
Yeah, no,
particular
and
case."
now I'm calling
in this
bullshit. I don't endorse Tech Raptor and Niche Gamer, and I've called Niche Gamer out for being unethical before. So if you're going to do that, I'm going to call foul and leave. That's not cool. Never done that. I've called Ralph out before, too, and I've gotten whacked over the head for it.
The interesting thing to me is you claim that I didn't do my due diligence, but the only thing that's become clear in this stream is that you didn't do your due diligence when making claims against me. So that makes you a hypocrite.
No, it means that neither one of us did our due diligence.
No, that's not. No, I actually proved, and you admitted in this very stream that I did do my due diligence. So, you know.
You did your due diligence on the fact, you didn't do your due diligence on the execution because you didn't get the other side of the story, and you
And I
insist that
explained
there's
why
not
that wasn't
one.
necessary. That's not a fact.
To
That's
you,
an opinion.
it's not
And
necessary.
to you, it's necessary, and that's an opinion. So, sorry, man, but you are not an authority, as you just said.
That's fine. No, that's true. It's fine. It is. It
If
will
you
come
had
down
something
to a
stating here,
difference
you
of
lied
opinion.
here, that's a very different thing. But you don't have that, just like Sargon didn't have that, just like every stream I've ever been on has failed to have that. And maybe there's a reason.
But the point I
And
was
maybe
trying to
there's
get
a
at,
reason,
and I
and
don't
the
think
reason is because there's a group of ethics cucks that are paid to go after you and defame you. Is that where you're going to go? Because I heard you
Well, I
say
said-
something like that yesterday.
That
It
is
was a really interesting statement.
Wow, this guy is bad at listening. What I specifically said is that everybody keeps claiming that, oh, this was wrong, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, but no one has been able to point out, well, this was factually inaccurate. Now, it always comes down to, in my opinion, you should have done this, because that's all you people have, your opinion on me. You can't prove anything that I did wrong. You can't say, hey, like Ben Kuchera, for example, hey, you lied about this. You intentionally left this out, and here's the proof. You can't do that about me. So all you have left.
No, but stuff
you
was
should
left
have
out.
interviewed. You should have interviewed this guy.
You
That's just your
left out
opinion.
an entire side of it. You left out things that came later, and some of them in the updates.
And we've
Other
already
things-
went through it, and you couldn't. And actually,
Okay, I'm going to call it drop this debate because, again, you keep on going around in circles. Zan's side of the argument is that Variloh didn't do due diligence and didn't keep up with appearances to a certain degree, which may have tainted the accuracy of the reporting or may have made the reporting shoddy. But at the same time, he's going on and on and on about how Variloh is such a bad person because he didn't make his private blog. Well, not private.
No, I'm not.
He didn't
I'm
make
not
his
saying
blog.
Julio is a bad person.
Yes, you are, because you're accusing him of yellow journalism. Now, what
That
else?
doesn't make you a bad person. It
No,
means
he
you
accused
made
me
a
of lying.
mistake.
That's the important part. He accused me
That
of lying.
also would mean you made a mistake. It's different from being a
But
bad
you accused me of
person.
lying. You didn't accuse me of making a
A
mistake. You
bad
accused me of
person is
lying.
somebody who does it consistently, over and over and over and
But again,
over and
you
over again.
didn't
and
make
shows
the argument that I made a
results.
mistake. You made the argument that I'm a liar and that I intentionally left shit out.
I've been trying to make the argument that you made a mistake.
No, you specifically stated, Variloh, you lied. You've called me a liar. You said it in your video last night. The only one who's been proven as a liar here is you. I have never, ever claimed that you deleted the comments.
Well,
and then I fucking showed it. So you're the only liar here.
No,
Man.
it's, you know what, and it's fine. And it's fine. And I really...
You know what really upsets me about the Zan, by your behavior here? You basically are someone who's a free speech.
No, dude.
Okay,
Oh
here's the thing that I really don't like with a lot of these people who demand these high-end standards for anyone who dares.
I don't
make
demand
certain
high-end
unpopular
standards.
opinions.
Yeah, I don't demand high-end standards. What
Yes,
high-end
you do.
standards? What high-end standards am I demanding by the fact that you
You're
interviewed the
demanding
guy who
that
made the game?
you're demanding a person who owns a blog must send a request for comment and must publish the other side of the story, and he must.
No, I'm demanding
together.
that he must do that if he wants to be seen as unbiased. If he doesn't have a problem with being seen as having a bias, he can do whatever he wants. But Variloh's stance
That's
has
still
been
making a
that
demand
it's all
regardless of-
facts with no bias, and that's
Regardless
not
if
true.
you give a
He is
reason for-
biased.
Regardless if you give a reason for why you're making demands, the fact of the matter is you're still making high demands which are unreasonable.
It's not a high demand to demand that it's not even a demand. It's like, why didn't you just do this without bias if you wanted to prove it? I don't think Variloh's a bad
There's a
person.
difference between not
I'm not
giving,
trying to
but-
show that he's a bad person. I don't endorse the Ralph retort. I don't endorse X, Y, and Z sites. I think that they have all been categorically unethical at different times. I also think that that is part of the problem, is that people have been supporting things blindly in Gamergate and then attacking people, not even in Gamergate, just the general sphere that's come up around this, and then attacking people when they criticize it. But my entire point here was that if you are going to be one of the people who attacks and criticizes it, and you choose to do things a certain way, then you are choosing to have a bias. You are making a choice that people are going to be able to say you have a bias, including the person that you're trying to go after, or the person that you're trying to criticize.
The problem
If
here
you
is that
do that, and
You're taking your
only
opinion and
intentions
using it as an
are-
absolute. You're taking
No,
your
it's
opinion and
not
saying
an
it's an absolute.
absolute. That's what
Yes, actually, you are dealing with a ton of absolutes, and you're making claims like, oh, either you have a bias or you don't have a bias. The fact of the matter is every human being has a bias to a certain degree. Now, what the questions are, in what ways and to what degrees. All you can do is minimize your bias. You cannot completely remove it. That is impossible. You're not.
Yeah, that's a fair statement, but I don't see any attempt to. That's the point. I just don't see any attempt to remove it. It
Well,
looks
here's
to
my
me
question for you: is
like
it
the facts were besmirched because there was no attempt to remove it. There was no attempt to get the complete story. It was just, okay, here's this.
Complete
then
story
start on
provided,
Monday,
okay.
Then here's this.
a complete
you said-
story is impossible to obtain? Is the problem with
As complete as possible, and you left out the guy whose property it was, whose game it was. That seems to me to be a critical
Because his
angle.
claim, because again, it's you're continuously
So
stating that this
because
is a-
you've decided that his claim is bullshit, you're just going to leave
No,
it out.
I did not
so
decide
then you're
this is
accepting
bullshit.
you have
I'm
bias.
deciding that the specific situation that we're talking about is not a he said, she said situation. I've explained this multiple times. You can't contradict it. You've just simply glossed over it and say, well, no, you had to get a side of the story.
No,
This
I
is
can't actually contradict that. I didn't get a
It's
chance.
just a side of the story situation. A side of the story would imply that, for example, I had a fight with him and I only presented my point of view.
You had a
This is
fight
a
with
point
his
of
staff.
view. This is not a point of view situation. Would you shut up? This is not a point of view situation. This is, here are the facts and here are my fucking conclusions. You don't like that and you're sticking to, no, you should have asked the guy, which is your subjective opinion, and you have failed multiple times to prove that I'm a liar. And in fact, the only one who has proven that he is a liar and
Yeah,
leaves
I didn't set out to prove that you were a liar.
you
Sam, my
specifically-
question to you is why why Variloh has to adhere to your standards instead of being able to accept his own
He
standards.
doesn't have to, but if he accepts those standards and chooses it to do that way, if he accepts those standards and he chooses to do it his way, by his standards, then there's a bias there. His bias,
In your
his
opinion.
standards, because there's no
In your
oversight.
So I got to take your bias.
So, no, but here's the thing.
Yeah, let's take your bias. Let's take
No, you're absolutely right. It works in reverse. That's the problem. That's why doing it the way you did it is a bad thing. Because if I went
that
out
has
and did the
nothing to
same
do with
thing-
it. I just
What
stated.
would you be saying if I published
Honestly,
an article on
I'm
you?
going to cut it here. I'm going to say no more about this
Like-
because I honestly thought that this was a real issue that you guys had with, but this is just the boringest. This is the most boring stream.
What? Because you didn't get the spaghetti out of it you wanted? Because I don't
No,
actually
because
hate
there was-
the guy,
there
I
was-
just want to debate him.
No, forget about spaghetti. I mean, you didn't even bring up anything of substance. Like,
I brought up things of substance. You guys don't think
what
so.
was?
I
What
don't
did you bring
care
up
what you think,
that was of substance? This just
He
seemed
did
like
bring up he did bring up a couple of things of substance. One, he claimed I'm a liar, couldn't prove it, backpedal. Then he claimed that I intentionally left information out, couldn't prove it, backpedal. Made a video stating claimed that I had half truths, yet has a video stating that I attacked V. Monroe, but doesn't tell the part of the information that.
No, you did attack Monroe.
the
That's a
video
separate
mocking
issue.
him?
I mean, do you really want to get into that?
At the video mocking him was after he had a stream where he gave a platform for someone to call
But that
me.
makes it
racist.
okay.
I'm not saying it makes it okay. I'm saying you are big about
Well,
leaving
then it's
information
okay to call
out,
Queenie
but you did the
racist.
same fucking thing that you're claiming I did. The difference is you can't prove I did it. Well, I can absolutely prove you did.
No, I can prove you did it. There are articles on your website with you doing it.
Of what? Of leaving information out? Of half truths?
No, of slandering people and attacking people.
A comedy
and doing all the
article,
same
which is
shit
what you're
you just
intentionally
said.
leaving out. A comedy
Yeah,
article.
and the comedy was lost on everybody from both sides.
Actually,
Again,
no, it was
more
lost
stupid
on
shit.
you.
Both of you were wrong.
A lot of people enjoyed
No, I
that.
highly doubt it was lost on just me. I think most people cringe when they see this shit.
Well, a lot of people enjoyed it. I got the feedback. So again, but hey, prove it. Prove that everybody didn't get it, or that most people didn't get it. Prove it. Go ahead. And even if they didn't get it, a bad joke
It's
is
not
still
a question
a joke.
of whether they. No, it's not a question of whether they got it.
But again, a bad joke is still a joke. It's not slander.
Look, if
unless
your
you want
intentions
a
are
PC
based
comedy,
on
which would be a really good idea.
If your intentions are to criticize people on merit, then why are you choosing it to do it this way? Like, I get, okay, fine, maybe that's the way that you want to do it. But
there's a rant of you that I really applauded, where you're
You-
basically condemning a whole bunch of people who are hand-wringing back in, I don't know, March, was it? I forget the exact time. But the point is, you once told people that they shouldn't go around hand-wringing people and telling people what to do and making sure that everyone goes and acts a certain way and behaves a certain way and sends a certain
yeah, and I
message
still
to state.
absolutely believe that, and I don't
No,
think
you
that's what
don't.
this
You went
is.
back on your word. You went completely back on your word. You've been
No,
hand-wringing
I
everyone.
didn't. I went after Variloh on my own personal stuff.
You
I
went
did not go
after
a
Variloh when
brigade
you
of
had
people.
no stake in this whatsoever. You were out
Yeah,
of.
I did have a
It
stake in
concern
this,
you.
actually. No, I did have a stake in this.
So you basically got involved
I did have a
because
stake in
you
this.
didn't like
The stake in this is
you didn't like
no.
the appearance
I
of what
got
someone
involved.
did.
No,
And
I
facts,
got involved because I want to criticize both people because I think they.
All right, now you're gonna listen because I'm not done yet, and you have a bad habit of interrupting. Now, what you were saying is that basically Variloh didn't send a request for comment, which actually, to an extent, I agree. He could have waited 24 hours to just send that email off and get that request for comment in there. That would have gone a long way as far as messaging goes. But I don't consider this an ethical violation like you do. I consider this a matter of journalistic quality versus, well, just deciding not to. In fact, arguably, it's personal preference. It's really a case of where it's more complicated than people make it out to be. And Norwegian guy, I can see you in the chat saying that Variloh wrote a hit piece. I don't care if you can think that Variloh wrote a hit piece or not, because the term and phrase hit piece is completely subjective. It depends on the person. It didn't even become a mainstream term until well, relatively recently, as a matter of fact. Just look for a definition of it, and the first thing that comes up is an Urban Dictionary definition. And if you want a more concrete, if you want a more recognized definition, you need to actually do more searching and digging for it. So unless you can bring one up as a way to objectively define a hit piece, I don't really care. I really don't. Anyway.
Can I ask one question real quick? It's just a quick question that I'd like to answer.
No, I'm on a rant here.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is, Zan, all of your arguments, basically the ones that are not predicated on, misinformation on your part, where either you misinterpret events or you just make them up, because I'm not sure which it is at this point, is all about appearances. And the thing is, I cannot stand when people decide to take arguments and then just say, oh, well, this your way you're messaging it needs to be changed. Like you have a point here, but you have to do it in a certain way. You have to basically mold it into a form that the public can understand it better, even though you yourself understood it perfectly well and you even agree with what is being said. But instead, you decide to you decide to hold the person back and basically act like a complete monkey wrench and basically do everything you can to make a stink about it.
No, how am I making a stink about it? And how
Because you're going on streams telling people that he's a yellow journalist.
I'm one guy. If people are taking, look, and I've said this before, by the way, if people are taking me at face value, that's a problem. I don't think they should be fucking doing that.
Do you not see how that's internally inconsistent?
I'm not a blogger. I don't have a blog. I don't have a news website.
Dan, think.
All I have are a collection of opinions, John.
So does Variloh. What is the difference between saying something?
Monetized website, monetized YouTube, monetized blog.
What does that matter? What does that matter? It's still media. What does that matter? It's still media.
Because I thought the point was not to create media that was shit to replace the media that was already shit. Like, I thought the point was you don't replace shit with more shit.
Well, you have to prove that one is shit first.
No. Hold on. What does it matter whether or not the media is monetized or not?
What does it matter that the media is monetized or not? This is probably going to come down to personal opinion as well, but it matters because if you're making money off of it and your source of making money is articles that you're publishing and those articles are attacking other people or not even attacking, criticizing other people, then it's different from when you're just a guy with no financial interests in it whatsoever, ingoing or outgoing. You're just saying stuff. It's a big difference. And I think that the difference is crucial, especially because you have so many people becoming what are called career gamergators, which are people like Sargon who make money off of the controversy, the ongoing controversies over and over and over again. I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing if they're disingenuous. So that's why I have a problem with it. If it was just a blog, if it was non-monetized, whatever, if you don't have a business, if you don't have any kind of a business interest in it, fine, all points conceded, you win. But you do. You have a monetized website which you've been promoting on your YouTube channels.
What does that matter? What does it change?
No, wait. This is an accusation directed at me. I should have the right to ask him a question. So your entire statement right now is boiling down because this seems to be a pattern with you. Now what you're actually implying is stating, well, you're doing this. Your motive here is to make money. You have a financial interest. You have a vested interest in making money. Zan, if I was interested in making money, yeah, the thing is monetized, but if you would have done your due diligence, you would know that on the website, I still haven't connected my AdSense, so I'm not really making anything. Those ads are for Google. I haven't made a nickel off of the website, so that's a bullshit claim. But again, it would require due diligence, as you call it.
No, I did my due diligence, and I know that. That's not the point. The point is that it is monetized.
Then why are you saying that I have a vested interest if my website isn't making me a penny?
It's not making you a penny yet, but you've set it up to make you pennies. You've set it up that way?
No, it actually hasn't been set up. Actually, it hasn't been set up because it's not even connected to my AdSense. And if you would have listened to the streams,
Beryl, I know you say you personally felt that this is directed at you, but I think he was speaking more generally. So I would like to actually.
You're absolutely right.
The thing is,
general thing.
The thing is that I would like to challenge Zan on is okay. If I'm producing media, I'm making it for free, and I'm saying a whole bunch of lies and stuff like that. If I'm pushing out like some radical propaganda, and I'm doing it all for free, why is it not a problem?
It doesn't make it okay. It's still a problem. But the thing is, the standard is different when money is involved.
To you.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that if you want, but I
don't even think this is a to you argument because I think
when people's bread and butter is involved, when people are giving their money to something, that's why I have an issue with
Nobody has given me a penny though. Nobody has given me a penny though.
You have a donate button on your website. So your argument is you haven't. Yeah, so your argument is you haven't received anything yet, but it's all set up and ready to go.
No, and it's actually not set up and ready to go.
The donate button works.
I've explained to the donate button more. The donate button works, but first of all, it's not connected to my particular PayPal to begin with. Number two, we've actually had the intention to remove that. We haven't done that. That's a claim of incompetence, and that would be a fair claim. But again, it hasn't been received. It would be set up to receive the money if, number one, the ads would be connected to my website, and number two, the Patreon that I've talked about that I am going to set up, because again, the purpose of the website is not just the blog. You're leaving that out.
This is a really pedantic argument because honestly, it does not matter whether it's monetized or not. Media is media. If you are,
I know it doesn't matter, but he's asking questions, and me as having a public
none of his arguments are predicated. I don't care because no, you shouldn't, because this is a really pedantic point, and it's really minutia, it's really boring, and I'm really tired of hearing about this because Zan is doing everything he can to shift the goalposts and move things around, and he's done this several times on stream. And it's just, there's only so much of this I can take, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, well, let me just end with a simple question, because at the end of the day, he's accused me of lying and all that shit, and at the end of the day, the only one who's lied was him. We proved that at the beginning in his video. It's filled with lies. Here's my question, Zan. You claim that your big thing, that you should ask people for the other story, and you're really big on that. You've been talking about me for a month. You haven't tried to reach me once. Are you a hypocrite?
No, because I'm just a YouTube guy, not a blogger, and it's just my opinions. I'm not trying to paint you to be anything. I think you did yellow journalism, and I wanted to hear the criticism.
You're giving public opinions that are provably false. You're making statements like he deleted his comments in my YouTube video. You're actively influencing people by doing so because you're putting your public opinions out there, which would be considered as slander because, once again, it is provably false, what you just said, and I proved it at the beginning, but I'm sure you're going to try to spin that too. And you don't have to reach me because you're not a blogger. That's a pretty hypocritical stance, Zan.
I'm not a blogger, and I'm not a guy with money involved. I'm not trying to make money or make a profile.
That's a really stupid standard.
No, I don't really think it's a
have to tell the truth because you don't have a blog. Well, geez, Zan. Cool, okay. I mean, now we know what you're about. That's good. Now we know what you're about. You don't have a blog, so you don't have to tell the truth. Okay, that's fine. Great.
Yeah, okay.
Now we know what you're about. That's great.
Okay, dude, you know,
I still don't understand the reasoning, Zan, why you think that's okay for you to say whatever you want and not have any standards when it comes to speaking.
No, there are standards. I fucked up, but it's not the same standard as when somebody is putting out tag pieces on people and they have a monetized blog that they're putting it out on.
You haven't given a reason why it matters with the monetization. You just
That's literally the reason why it matters. It's the same thing that the other side is doing.
Zan, why are you retarded?
On things
Zan,
that are
why are you being retarded? Seriously. Why are you being like you keep on going over this little minutia pedantic points and stuff like that, and you're not actually addressing what people are actually saying. You keep on asserting yourself over and over and over again, and this is a repeated habit.
Because I fundamentally disagree with you. It's not a repeated
I don't mind that he disagrees with that. I mind that he consistently has called me a liar, left people things out, made statements.
I haven't consistently called you a liar. I called you a liar
once. Yes, you did. You called me a liar multiple times on your video and on this once.
I said you admitted
that. You then changed the goalpost and said, "Oh, you're just disingenuous. This is just a pretty way of saying lying too." Then you stated, "Oh, you you left information out. I just can't prove it. It's my feels. Here's my feels argument."
That you left it out. I can't prove whether you did it intentionally or whether you just simply couldn't find it. But you yourself admitted that you left it out.
No, I did not admit I left it out, brother. I told you specifically that I couldn't find it because it had nothing to do with the necromancer thing, fundraiser.
So you left it out because you couldn't find it.
Again,
so leaving it out, find it, so leaving it out, wasn't there. So what did you do?
Again, it wasn't in the correct place where it should have been. That's not my fault. That's Sargon's. I'm sorry to tell you that, and he admitted as much. So you shouldn't circle on an argument that Sargon already conceded I was right about. But again, you watched the stream, so you should know that.
Anyway, I'm just going to close the stream down. I think that this is a waste of time, and I might just set this video to unlisted because, holy shit. All right, the end. Good night.